Hey, what's up, viewers? Patrick from Bob vs. Only, back in our YouTube video. In this episode number 2 of Purpose Week on Bob versus of the Day. And today's verse comes out of Jeremiah 29, verse 11, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And now to that verse means, and it's time for our church recap, and we're going to start in John 3, verses 14, 15, and 16. Here's what it says. "Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life." In verse 14 of John 3, it's a flashback to Numbers 21, verses 4 through 9. And here's what it says. "They traveled from Mount Hor along the route to the Red Sea to go around Edom. But the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and against Moses and said, 'Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food.' Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, 'We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take the snakes away from us.' So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, 'Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live.' So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived." So there's the flashback that John is referring to when he says in John 3, verse 14. Yes, that's right. Where it says, "Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness," the snake that Jesus told Moses to lift up, "so the Son of Man must be lifted up." So that's all for the verse portion. Glenn preached about this on the radio on Saturday. So now we're going to get to the sermon that Rob preached. And we're going to stay in the New Testament, and we're going to go to Matthew 13, verses 10 through 17, and this is basically before, Jesus told the parable of the sower. So the disciples, they asked him, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" And actually, here's Matthew 13, verses 10 through 17. Here's what it says. "The disciples came to him and asked, 'Why do you speak to the people in parables?' He replied, 'Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even when they have, will be taken from them.'" So stop in there for just a moment. When Jesus is saying, when he says in verse 12, "Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance, and whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them." The first part, where he says whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. So he's referring to the children of God, those that are interested, and specifically in this case, Jesus is talking to the disciples. And then when he says, whoever does not have even what they have will be taken from them, he's referring to those that are not interested. Continuing on, verse 13 says, this is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Messiah, of Isaiah. So now Jesus is going to go back. He's going to flash back all the way to Isaiah 6 verses 9 through 10. And here's what it says. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you will see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. And so that is all for the verse portion of Rob's sermon. Where it gets really interesting is where let's see where it is. Up in the middle of verse 15, where it says, they hardly hear with their ears. Rob is referring to a verse, and I believe it was in Luke. I'm not sure where in Luke it says, but where it says, whoever has ears, let them hear. And what was really interesting about this part was whenever I was listening to Rob preach, and then all of a sudden it brought me to Revelation, where John is writing the letters to the 7 churches in Ephesus and Smyrna and Thyatira and Sardis and Philadelphia and Laodicea. At the end of every letter that John writes to these 7 churches, he always ends it by saying, whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. And that is all for the church recap. So now it's time for the verse to leave today. And it's a familiar one. 1 Corinthians 13:4. It says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. And that's going to do it for the video. Thanks for watching. And until next time again, viewers, in every way, God's way is always the best way.